Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much again. What exactly is digital transformation? Again, I believe this is really based on the 4 pillars. How better we engage our customers, how we empower our employees, how well we optimize our operations, that's the IT operations, and then how do we build fantastic products. The question then comes, isn't this something we've been talking about for all the years? Isn't this been the motto for all the years? So what's different here? Why is this considered as digital transformation compared to what we've been trying to achieve for all the years? Now we are talking about the what and how. And the what tells you that we are going to use digital technology to transform these things. This is very important now that, as we kind of look at using technology to go ahead and do the disruption and transform the businesses how we are doing it. While we do that, there's also the important aspect of how we are going to do this. Companies and successful companies who are going to take this particular journey, they are going to be very critical about how they are going to implement those things. Which kind of tells me that there are 2 parts to this, right? There is the technology capability of the company, and then the how part comes from the leadership capabilities of the company. Do we have the right leaders in the organization to go ahead and do these technological transformations? So I think as much as the what part is important, which is the technology itself, the how part, which is the leadership capability of an organization, is going to play a very critical role when it comes to digital transformation. So let's look at the technology part. One of the things which I call it as the spectrum, if you look at the last 10 years, we've been talking about SMAC, right? The social media, analytics, cloud, and in the recent past, IoT. This has been really the spectrum of the technology. These are the 2 technologies I do want to highlight, I think are going to play more critical role than anything. One is the artificial intelligence. The reason why I feel this is going to play a very critical role is because artificial intelligence is something which is going to be impacting each and every area, be it HR, finance, sale, every area is something where there's going to be a disruption purely because of the implementation of something like artificial intelligence. The second thing is the blockchain. The very idea of having things decentralized is completely different than the way we have been brought up so far in building those things. So this is a complete different and disruptive way of how we are going to be doing these things. So, and for that reason, I think these are the 2 areas which are going to be very, very critical. So far, we've been building systems of information, systems of records. What we now have to build is systems of, innovation. And to do that, we're going to have systems of intelligence, and to do that, we're going to have to use these kind of technologies to do these things. Let's switch to the next part of it, right? And that is the leadership part. This talks about the cognizance of what, as IT leaders today, we are facing. The first one is really the intimidation which is coming from the spectrum. So I just showed you the spectrum and the kind of technologies and the kind of revolution which is happening in this. It can intimidate as an IT leader. Am I doing all the right technology selection for what I want to do? Am I in sync with the new things which are coming up? Am I even aware if what I have taken as a platform is the right one? And I think all these things are going to intimidate as an IT leader. The digital baseline of the industry itself, right? I'll probably take an example here. Can we think of a movie theater today without having a ticketing system which is online? It just kind of, the baseline has changed, right? So we in our organization, we need to look at where is the baseline for that industry, and are we at least at the baseline? If not, already moving ahead and trying to use things like artificial intelligence, are we at least at the baseline? Sometimes, as IT leaders, we end up getting too excited about a technology and implementing a tech stack without having a very clear strategy around it. There's also the relevance part. Maybe you will pick up something which probably is not completely relevant. Blockchain, maybe not relevant for everyone. And that's very important that we identify what is very relevant for us. And at that same time, the next difficult question is, from our workforce capability, does our team have all the necessary trainings and skill set to go ahead and deliver those things? I think this is something which is creating a lot of challenge, and this is something which the IT leadership now have to be cognizant about in their own area, in their own industry, in their own company, that are we having all these things at least aware of? With this, I'm going to try and help you, or let me say this. With this, I'm going to try and explain you some of the things which we have done in the past few months on how we can go ahead and start implementing or creating a culture of digital transformation in the organization. I call it as building blocks. We really have to build these blocks in the organization. I'm going to divide this into 3 different categories. The first one is, what's your strategy? It's very, very critical that you need to define what your strategy is going to be. And then the second one is agility, and we call it as a 3-month rule. So at MSC, when we started this journey of figuring out how we're going to transform the entire landscape for IT, about in 2012, so about 6 years back, we really said, what is our real core strategy going to be? And that's when we said that the key things which we want to achieve in this organization today is, we want to consolidate our data centers, consolidate our applications. We want to ensure that we use cloud. We want to ensure, because we are a privately owned organization, we have to take care of the cost part. And while we do all that, we have to be compliant. So we defined at a very high level a 4C strategy for everything what we are going to do. And once we define that, then you kind of go ahead and build those blocks for each and everything which you do in your IT setup. Whether you take up a project, you question yourself, are you doing all the things with my 4C strategy? And by the way, this is 4C for MSC. It could be something completely different for you. Maybe your customer base is very mobile, and then that's where a mobile could be a very important part for you. A social could be a very important part for you. So you'll have to identify what's your strategy going to be. The next one is very interesting, and this is something which we had a lot of debate on. We've taken all the projects which we have in the IT, which we are doing for business, be it in the CRM side, ERP side, infrastructure side, customer-facing projects, and we've applied this, that is this project going to take more than 3 months? And if it's going to take more than 3 months, then I think we need to look at options. There is an absolute mandate. Any business project cannot take more than 3 months. And I'll give you an example, and this really sparked from here. Our ERP system, which is Oracle, in Europe, we have a certain bank with whom we are tied up, so all the payments kind of go through that. And there was a mandate that we need to shift that bank and move to a different bank. And when I go to the ERP team members and ask them, how are we going to do this, and how much time would you need? And the answer which comes to me is, this is a 12 weeks effort. So to change a bank in a system, it's going to take 12 weeks. And if that's the kind of agility we are going to show, then that's not going to work. The CEO comes and says that, I need a report which talks about what my forecast is going to be from a sales perspective for this particular region, for this particular geography. And if we as an IT then start saying, we'll have to have a CRM system, on top of it there will be a middleware, and then we'll have a BI stack, and this is a 9 months project. The CEO wants the data today. So anything which is going to take a business project for more than 3 months, you need to look at options. That's something which is a prime rule. And surprisingly, when we implemented it, we found out that there's no project which actually in today's technology world really needs more than 3 months. There are ways of how we can go ahead and do it. This is again a very eye chart. This is what we kind of defined at 2012, how our data center strategy is going to be. We wanted to standardize, optimize, moving all the way to more of a service broker. And you can see the data center dynamics. We became automated. We've done a lot of automation using VRA. The entire product development stack today uses VMware solutions to go ahead and do very high level of automation. And we kind of getting to a point where the data center is irrelevant. The the customer will not know where exactly this is running. It could be anywhere on the cloud, in-house, wherever it is. I do want to map this, and this is very important, and this is something which you have to prepare your CEOs and CFOs, that all the automation and all the standardization brings the cost down, but then there is a cost to do the automation as well, and you have to build that. If you think that automation can happen for free, that's not going to happen. In fact, you're going to need a lot more people and a different type of skill set to build AI and everything. So automation doesn't come for free. If you think that if I automate and I can reduce 3 people, please be ready, because you probably will need 4 people to manage that automation. The second block, which I'm going to talk about today, is security a practice and initiate intelligence. Security, I think, is a paramount important, particularly what we've seen in the recent times with the attacks, data privacy, the GDPR coming up in the global, in the European side. It's one of the most critical piece of anything what we have to do from an IT point. In fact, this is one of our KRA as such. It's our responsibility to do the security. But unfortunately, what I have seen is a lot of IT leaders make that as an excuse to not do things. Why do you have an email system which doesn't have more than 5 GB of storage? Oh, we can't have storage in our data center for that much. Why are you not going on cloud? Oh, cloud is not secure. And that's it. That's not an excuse. Security is your responsibility. And if you're going to go ahead and make that as an excuse for not doing things, then there's a problem. It is absolutely important, whether it is cloud, any application, any data, this is your job. We cannot go ahead and say that I can't do this because my company doesn't allow me to put anything on the cloud. You need to go ahead and create that confidence in the company that this is secure and we can do it. So please, security has to be like a practice. It's our job to build it. We cannot use that as an excuse anywhere. The next one is initiate intelligence. This is very different. What I realize is that with the traditional workforce which we have and the traditional mindset from where we are coming up, it's very hard to figure out how we will go ahead and apply the future technologies into our setups. And this is where we've taken up as an agenda that in this particular year, and this is like a KRA for the team, that you have to identify one place where you're going to implement something like an AI or ML in the business side. If you're not able to go ahead and find anything in the business side, you need to find something in your own IT space. The smallest of the thing, but find that and go ahead and implement that. It could be a small bot. What it does is the business leaders, like the CEOs and the CFOs of the company, they take a notice that there is this IT team which has the capability to do these things. And that's where they will go ahead and have the confidence to come to you and give you a much larger project. I'm going to tell you what we've done. So we have a private cloud which is used for product development, and there are multiple platforms. So on an average, we create somewhere around 5,000 VMs on any given month on the private cloud. With product D may want a Red Hat VM, and then that can go in the private cloud and create it. And it's a very random pattern in which that happens. What we've taken as a project this year is that can we add some amount of artificial intelligence in this, where we can start predicting what is the next set of platforms which the customer is going to request for. In a sense, what will happen is that with this particular intelligence which we can bring up, we can create, so if someone wants a virtual machine in a particular platform, because there's artificial intelligence, it will predict what generally is the pattern and how we can create that upfront so that people can just go ahead and use it and it's ready when they want to. So that way they can reduce the time which is required to create that virtual machine. So that's a very small application of artificial intelligence, or even machine learning for that matter. This is artificial intelligence very much. But you need to identify that and give that challenge to your team to go ahead and do that. This kind of takes me to the next block of what we want to do. And this is a very interesting block, because this is something which somehow in all the discussions get neglected. So far we've been talking about working with millennials. But now I think moving forward, this is going to be the way. I want to give an example. I happen to have a couple of college grads which joined my team, and I used to have my weekly meetings, and I could get the feeling that they are absolutely not interested in that meeting. But what also something which I saw is that if they don't like something, they are not someone who will go ahead and hold it to themselves. They will be very happy to go ahead and give you that feedback. And that is exactly how I felt that if we are not ready to use this particular change which is coming up, and if we don't embrace this, just think of it. It took a long time for us to say no, just to learn to say no. These guys, they know how to say no. They know how to say the right thing. But if we don't embrace this, and if we don't go ahead and plan on how we're going to use the millennials for our future plans, I think we are not going to have the right kind of workforce to do these things. The ideas of AI, the ideas of ML are going to come from them. So it's for us to change our style to go ahead and ensure that we get maximum from these guys. And that is something which I call it as really working with the millennials or ready for millennials. If you look at these 3 blocks, and there are a lot of more things, I just wanted to pick few things so that I can kind of get the thinking in that direction. If you really look at it, what we are looking at is the regular 3 blocks of process, technology, and people. At the end of it, a digital transformation is a cultural change. It's not just a technology, it's not just the leadership, it's a cultural shift. We have to look at all the 3 areas and find out what are the things we can make as a change which will eventually help us to build a stronger digital transformation in the organization. That's it from my side. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take.
So Abhijit, thanks for this. I think this was fantastic. I really loved that 3 months rule. How difficult was it for you to do this, to start? And how difficult also is it for you currently to take this through your organization?
Yes, it's a good question because this was a disruptive change for us. So recently, and I'll give you a little bit of an example. Recently in MSC Software, and if anyone knows about MSC Software, we are a 55-year-old company, and we always sold our software as perpetual licenses. There was this desire from the leadership that can we now start selling our software as a subscription? And now you're looking at the entire different gamut, right? I mean, your product is built for perpetual, your licensing solution is built for that, your infrastructure on which how it kind of gets developed is built for that. And when I had this conversation with my team, the answer was this is at least a 2.5 years of effort. If we add more people, if we get some resources from outside, maybe we can complete some amount by 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years, something like that. And then the question really struck me is that if this is going to take 2 years to build, and after 2 years once we build it, the leadership realizes there's no value in it, what's the point, right? So then I said, okay, how about we now try and fit this in our 3 months rule? Can we make sure that there is just one particular product, and maybe take the most newest one because that's probably a lot more adaptable for changes, and build it for that? And deliver, and then show it to the leadership that this is the kind of reporting you will get, and this is how the consumption will be reported back to you, and does this make sense for you? Also, we kind of decided, let's not go the way, building that old stack of middleware and everything. Can we do this by using some cloud technology, using AWS, how we can use different types of database to go ahead and do it. And it'll be surprised for you that we could actually go ahead and get a solution in 2 months. Okay, for that particular product. And then once you have that visibility, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for, and this is actually creating revenue. Can now I go ahead and extrapolate this to everything else? Yes. So that becomes very important. And I think that's where the challenge is. A lot of people, whenever I talk about this, will say that, oh, but you know what, it cannot be done. Well, you divide it. You divide it to a smaller one for you to go ahead and first show the results. You can't plan for the whole thing up front. So, hope that answers your question.
One question for you. How you tackle or get this management support to do the things better?
Yeah.
In the capacity building management plan.
I think this is,
I think everyone here
of course, including me.
Everyone knows that the preference for the IT in every organization
Yes,
is the lower preference.
yes.
So how you tackle this?
No, this is something which we all have been brought up with. One thing which has definitely helped me, so the final goal on how do you solve this is by having a seat at the table, right? When the top management is going to sit, they need to feel that I need to have the IT leader also in my strategic decision. And how do you get that? That's not going to happen. No one is going to come and give it to you on a platter. And how do you do that? Most important thing is you need to stop thinking IT and have to start thinking business. So for me, if you ask me how our products really operate, 7 years back, I had absolutely no idea. I've been there for almost 8 years now. But when we build the strategy, one of the first thing I decided to do is understand who are the customers, how do we sell it, where do we sell it, understand at least the business model. And that's when you can go ahead and start giving a explanation to the top management in a business language. Unfortunately, we are used to this, right? We go to our CEO and say that, I want to buy this firewall which is going to go ahead and do this. And it's like, okay, and then you keep going again and again, and then probably somewhere it gets approved. But if you are able to go ahead and say, listen, I need to buy a solution which is going to secure this. If I don't do this, there is an exposure of, say, $400,000. And now it's for him to decide whether I take the expenditure of 100,000 right now or take the exposure of 400,000. And if he says at that time that, Abhijit, I am going to be taking this risk, at least you are both on the same page. And for that reason, and I was having this conversation before, IT needs to stop talking IT. IT needs to start talking business.
Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you.